Oh, hello there. Didn't see you there. Morning. I'm just out in the great outdoors, just doing some wood chopping. It's a nice way to start the day if you're a rough and tough lumberjack like me, yeah. So, just I'd limber up and chop some wood, and maybe later on I might dive into an ice cold lake for a bit of a brisk swim, get the old blood pumping. Maybe wrestle a grizzly bear or two in the afternoon, like us rough and tough lumberjacks do. Anyway, second thoughts. It's a bit chilly. Should we go inside and have a story instead? I think that might be better. And anyway, even if I did want to wrestle a grizzly bear, which I can, because I'm a rough and tough lumberjack and all that, chances are they're still in hibernation, so they'd be asleep. That wouldn't really be a fair fight, would it? So we'll just leave them to it and we'll go inside. Come on. Oh, that's better. It was getting a bit nippy outside, so I'm glad we've come inside for a nice story. So in case you hadn't already guessed, today's story is going to be the Lumberjack's Beard. Hence I'm wearing my lumberjack shirt. So it's all about a lumberjack called Big Jim Hickory. He's this fellow here. And doing what a lumberjack does, he chops down lots of trees, but unfortunately he makes a few of the animals in the neighbouring forest homeless. And so he has to come up with a plan to find a new place for them to live, with hilarious consequences. You can be the judge of that. Anyway, I thought we would begin the story of the Lumberjack's Beard. So I hope you're sitting comfortably. Oh, better put my glasses on, because even though I wrote the book, I still don't know it off by heart. So I need to read it too. Big Jim Hickory was a lumberjack. He lived by a forest in a little log cabin. He had big burly shoulders and an even bigger bristly beard. So on this image we can see him. He's outdoors and he's checking his mail, and he's just about to start his day's work. Every day he got up and did his limbering up exercises. It's very important to limber up if you're a lumberjack. Now, if any of you guys have done PE, you'll know that you've got to do stretching exercises before you do anything too vigorous. Otherwise you might pull a muscle or hurt yourself. And here we can see Jim doing some special lumberjack aerobics. If you want, you could try and copy him and do some of these stretching exercises that he's doing. Although he is quite a large chap, he looks like he's about to burst out of his pyjamas. Hopefully you won't do that. After a hearty breakfast of pancakes and maple syrup, Jim slung his big trusty axe over his big burly shoulder and headed out into the forest. And there we can see what a lumberjack eats for breakfast. Lots of pancakes and maple syrup. No wonder he's bursting out of his pyjamas, eh? Chop, choppity chop, went Jim's axe, echoing through the valley as he felled tree after tree after tree. Here we can see him going through the process of chopping down a tree, and when it falls, lumberjacks always shout this word. I wonder if you can shout it too. Timber! It's basically what they say when they want people to watch out so they don't get a giant redwood tree landing on their head. So it's sort of a warning. After a long day of swinging, whacking, cleaving and hacking, Jim headed back to his cabin. And there we can see where there was a forest, there's now just miles and miles of tree stumps. He's been a very busy lumberjack. That evening, when he was just about to go to bed, he heard a peck peckety peck at his door. Jim looked down to see a small and very cross bird. "I built a lovely new nest in my tree," shrieked the bird, "and you chopped it down." Jim scratched his big bristly chin. Then he had an idea. "I suppose you could move into my beard," he said. "Very well then," said the bird, and in she flew. So here Jim's relaxing with his bunny slippers on, having a nice cup of cocoa, and an angry bird has disturbed him and said, "You need to find me somewhere else to live." The next morning, Jim woke up earlier than normal due to the bird chirping away at the crack of dawn. That's what birds do, isn't it? He did his limbering up exercises, got dressed and ate his breakfast with a little help from the new tenant in his beard. And here you can see, no sooner can Jim put the pancake in his mouth, the bird pops out of his beard and nibbles on it. Not a great way to start your day. Jim's next job was to strip all the branches and leaves off the tree trunks and burn them on a big bonfire. After a long day of chopping, snapping, burning and crackling, Jim trudged back to his cabin for a well-earned rest. So he's burnt all the tree branches, got rid of all the evidence. But no sooner had he laid down his axe than he heard a noise at the door. Scratch, scratchety, scratch. He looked down to see a very fed-up looking porcupine. "Oi!" snapped the porcupine. "I needed those leaves and pine needles to make a nice cosy shelter. Where am I going to live now?" Jim thought and scratched his big bristly chin. "Well," he said, "I suppose you could move into my beard too." He bent down and the porcupine crawled in. So now not only does he have a bird in his beard, but he's got a porcupine about to move in too. Not ideal, I wouldn't have thought. The next morning, Jim woke even earlier and attempted to do his limbering up exercises. He looked in the mirror and scratched his big bristly chin. Yow! He got porcupine quills in his fingers. That's going to hurt. He tried to eat his breakfast, but he lost his appetite when he noticed he had bird poo on his shirt. Ugh, not good. Reminds me, I must check I don't have any on mine. Do let me know if I do. Put it in the comments or something. Jim's job that day was to float all the tree trunks down the river to the lumberyard. One by one, he rolled the logs into the fast-flowing water. Here you can see him using the river to transport all the logs downstream. After a hard day of lugging, splashing, rolling and crashing, and what's at the end of the stream? A beaver. Don't think he's going to be too happy. Jim staggered back to his cabin. Thwump, thwumpety thwump went his door. He looked down to see a very angry beaver on his doorstep. "I spent all day building my nice new dam, and it got smashed to bits by those logs you threw in the river," he snarled. Without a word, Jim picked up the beaver and put him in his beard. Between the birds chirping, the porcupines prickling, and the beavers thwumping, Jim didn't get much sleep that night. He was too tired to do his limbering up exercises in the morning, and the beaver's thwumping tail knocked his pancakes all over the floor. Uh-oh, not a good start to his day. "That's it," cried Jim. "I can't take it any more. You'll all have to move out today." "But where will we live?" gasped his friends. As Jim scratched his big bristly chin, he had a bold but brilliant idea. He went into his bathroom, took out his trusty razor, and began to shave off his big bristly beard. That's a bold step for a man with a beard like that. Imagine shaving off all that furry beard hair. Wouldn't be easy. Then he piled it all up on his porch, and the bird, the porcupine and the beaver all moved in to their nice new cosy den. That night, Jim slept better than he had done for some time. He woke up and did some particularly vigorous limbering up exercises, put on a fresh plaid shirt, then he made an enormous tower of pancakes and maple syrup. There you can see Jim is invigorated again, doing his exercises, eating his hearty breakfasts, the way a lumberjack should. After breakfast, Jim looked out of the window at the bare ground where the forest used to be, and he scratched his unusually bare and stubbly chin. And he had another brilliant idea. That morning, Jim took his trusty shovel and dug hole after hole after hole. There you can see him looking out at all the tree stumps, and he's had a brainwave. What's he up to? And with his big hands, he planted tree after tree after tree. look at all the new trees Jim's been planting. He's been exceedingly busy. Jim's beard grew back over time. The trees took quite a bit longer. Here we can see going through the seasons. Spring, tiny tree. Summer, a little bit bigger. Autumn, that's typical weather for most of the year here. And winter, and the trees getting gradually bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on, until it's fully grown. But it was worth the wait. And there we can see Jim and his friends under the shade of the nice big new tree, reading a little book on how to plant trees. And that is the end of the story of the Lumberjack's beard. So you can see, whilst his beard made a nice cosy home for the animals, it wasn't exactly practical. I don't think I could hide anything in my beard, maybe an ant or a woodlouse at best. But Big Jim, with his big bristly beard, was able to. But then he made an even bigger sacrifice and shaved it off, so he could give the animals a new home when he replanted the forest. So that was the story of the Lumberjack's beard. Hello, me again. Today I would like to show you how to draw another character from one of my books, and that character is Big Jim Hickory from the Lumberjack's Beard. So, as you may remember, he's quite a big, rotund chap with a massive, bristly, bushy beard. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to concentrate on his face and beard, as obviously that's sort of the biggest part of his character. And then afterwards, we're going to think of what we might be able to add to that beard. But for now, we're just going to quickly draw Jim, and I'll show you how. So, we're going to start off with his lumberjack hat, which you may remember has a sort of rectangular flap at the top. And the top has curves on it rather than sharp corners. Then from there, we're going to draw his nose. Sort of a big fat nose with 3 little bumps, and it goes back up again like that. Next is eyes, so you can see what he's doing when he's chopping down trees. Similar to the bear in The Bear Who Stared, he's got circular eyes, little black dots in like that. And now we're going to do his eyebrows. Now, he's going to look quite shocked in this picture, quite surprised, because, well, that'll be made apparent later, because when we decide what's going to go in his beard. So his eyebrows are going to go off his face, like that, totally off the top of his face, almost hovering over his hat. I think when you're drawing characters like this, if you're drawing cartoons, what have you, you can do what you like. You can defy the laws of nature and physics. If eyebrows jump off people's heads, so be it. I remember when I was little, I used to like watching Danger Mouse, and there was a character called Penfold in that, and his eyebrows used to hover about 6 inches off the top of his head whenever he got surprised. So I think it's fine to draw them like that. And next, the beard. So first we're going to start with the edge of the beard that goes round under his eyes, over his cheeks like that. So a curved line up to the edge of the nose, and then continue around here. And now for the exciting bit, the massive bushy beard. So this is going to be a sort of ragged line, and we're going to go round and round and round, down like that, then continue going round until eventually we come back to the top of his head. So there we have a massive bushy beard. And lastly, we're going to finish off his hat. He has an ear flap like that, and it goes up over the top of the peak of the hat, down on the other side, and maybe just add in his big burly shoulders going off the edge of the page there. So the reason I've drawn a big close-up like this of Jim's beard is because I thought you might want to add your own animals living in his beard. So if you've got a pet canary, he could have a canary living in his beard. You might have a pet hamster, he could have a hamster living in his beard. So I'm going to kick things off. I've got a pet dog called Ivor, and I'm going to do him sort of sitting in this bushy middle part of Jim's beard. Now, Ivor had a bit of an accident the other day, and he's feeling a bit sorry for himself. He hurt his paw. He was running along, and he sort of twisted it in a funny way. So I'm going to draw him looking a little bit sad and a little bit despondent, hopefully he'll be okay. He's done it before and he just sort of limps around for a bit and then he picks himself up and he carries on running, chasing his tennis ball. But for now, we'll do him looking a little bit sad. He's a spaniel, by the way, my dog. And we'll do him with a paw. He doesn't actually have a bandage on it, but we'll draw a bandage on it so he looks a bit more forlorn. And there's his other foot, perfectly fine. And we'll do some dashes for fur on his ear. And he's got spots, so we'll give him some spots. So there's Ivor with his bandaged foot looking a bit sad. And there's Jim, keeping him nice and cozy inside his beard. So why don't you have a go at drawing Jim? Add whatever you like to his beard. It could be an alien, doesn't have to be an animal. It could be something from outer space, could be something quite wild, such as a rhinoceros or a giraffe or a snake. Just let your imaginations run wild, and I'll be intrigued to see what you come up with. So, thanks very much for watching, and good luck with drawing Jim.